Welcome back to the channel Outriders. I've invested well over 200 hours and fully digested the demo experience, and it's time to release this review and hopefully help you answer the question, should I buy Outriders? On that note, if you enjoyed today's video, please consider subscribing and remember to hit the bell so you do not miss any of the videos hitting your sub box in the near future, as we will be covering a lot of content builds and beyond with Outriders. For the basics, Outriders is a third-person RPG shooter with an in-depth customization system to allow for a wide variety of builds and experimentation. If you're a fan of games like Destiny, Division, Borderlands, Diablo, or Warframe, this game may be for you. I generally stray away from comparing games, but with this one I see a lot of people comparing it to games like Destiny and Division, and although it does share some similarities, it doesn't necessarily play the same as either of those. If you look past the surface and ignore the fact that it's a looter shooter, it really doesn't have much else in common with those games. If Outriders is comparable to any game, I believe it's mostly like Diablo 3, but kind of with guns, and that is a highly exciting thing as we don't really have a popular game that goes that direction. Outriders will be up to 3 players in a squad for friend play, and even the most difficult activities in the game can be done solo if you choose to go that route, though it is said to be significantly more difficult. The game will be launching with full crossplay capabilities, so anyone playing the game will be able to seamlessly join and participate with friends, and yes, matchmaking also exists for those needing just some pickup runs with strangers. This game will also be coming to Xbox Game Pass on launch day, so that means April 1st. This will save many of you a little money and maybe just be that nudge you need to try the game out for those that are on the fence and have to save with that subscription. Outriders also launches with a free platform upgrade, so if you buy it on PlayStation 4, decide to pick up a PlayStation 5 a month later, you will be able to upgrade to the PlayStation 5 version for free. Another great addition to this game is it has launched with a demo, and it has been frequently patched and worked on prior to launch, and all your experience, loot, and accolades will roll over to the full game, so you can have a little head start in your progression for launch day. The combat, however, in Outriders is very satisfying. The game's combat is inspired by Gears of War, and the developers have worked on previous Gears titles themselves, and it shows. Satisfying gunplay with tons of gore, rewarding a confetti explosion of loot out of those exploding bodies. What's not to love? There are 4 playable classes that kind of fit into traditional roles of an RPG, so the Trickster is like a roguelike DPS character who warps time and space in a very flashy way. The Pyro is the game's mage. It focuses on fire with a variety of ways to burn and debuff the enemies, and requires use of combos to really get a lot of burst from it. The healer role is the Technomancer. Unlike many RPGs out there, the healer and tank roles in Outriders aren't just there to support. They deal out some massive damage and crowd control too. The Technomancer works with the specialty in ranged combat, turrets, and explosives, and works with both poison and ice abilities. Lastly, we have the tanky boy, the Devastator. He has intense survivability, good damage, and great ways to initiate fights, and grabs enemies' attention while your friends pile on the damage from a safe distance, all while using the earth and bleed as his focus. Each character you build will allow you to pick your class and choose your 3 abilities. You have a choice between 8 different abilities you unlock through the story mode to match your build or playstyle that you can switch up at any time. The loot system in this game is an interesting one for sure. There's rarity systems much like other games, starting at common, working its way all the way up to epics and legendaries. The in-game activities are expeditions, and they are high world tier difficulties also that will reward you with more of those high-end drops that you seek. You have a total of 2 primary weapon slots and a pistol option. Do not be fooled though, the pistols are pretty damn strong on their own. With a massively robust combination and customization methods, your builds will vary based on a bunch of different decisions that you choose. The guns and armors themselves will come with mods on them, which can be extracted by breaking down an item with the mod on it stored in a library. After that, once it's stored, it can be applied to other items of your choosing. So a gun with 2 toxic mods could have one replaced and add possibly a burn mod, so you now have 2 sources and a larger library of ways to experiment and build towards. Beyond the mod system, the classes themselves have specific builds and direction with a skill tree and point system. Each route of the tree aims towards a specific theme. Top tree generally revolves around gun damage and firepower. The middle tree is more survivability, and the bottom tree is aimed around anomaly power, or basically your ability's strength. These trees have routes for you to build hybrids, or even a bunch of all 3 options for a well-rounded build if you choose to do this. Take your build further by synergizing your gun mods with your skill tree and your class abilities, and have a major source. Step further and play with 3 friends, and all of you could have guns with toxic damage, and your entire group can work together and dominate with a specific type of damage if you want to, opening up a level of team composition that is not common in today's RPGs. The ability to sync your own builds with your squad mates and all become stronger within those is pretty impressive. Furthermore, this game works with an upgrade system and resources. Resources are different materials that you gather from breaking down things, and shards are also earned from breaking down the items as well. These resources can be used to apply to bump up an item's rarity level, strength, and even its attributes to achieve higher tiers of those weapons. In all honesty, the upgrade system is still a little overwhelming to me, as there are a few questions to still be answered, and though it is a bit different than other games, it's more confusing than it needs to be. I won't be deep diving into that system myself, but feel free to check out the in-game guides in your demo menu, or head to the YouTube search bar yourself if you want more information on customization and building and crafting. Lastly, your character builds are essential, not just your abilities, skill trees, or your friends. Your mods on the armor can help strengthen a particular ability or combination of them, as the legendary items in this game have powerful mods on them as well, depending on the bonuses and how many you have equipped. The legendary armor are incredibly powerful and point you towards a particular build, greatly improving a method of play or a build work much like gear sets and other RPGs do, with buffs based on having multiple pieces equipped. As for the overall gameplay, it's really great and it has a simple foundation. The game doesn't have social hubs, cities, and a ton of activities like games like Destiny do, and there are only going to be a couple of activities to do at in-game once you have completed the story and side quests. Let's start at the beginning. After creating your character, you progress through the story, knocking off side quests along the way if you choose. I personally recommend it as it's a way to upgrade your gear through progression, and it's really important in this game to do, a little bit more so than I think others will be. This game is built around chapters, as you progress and you choose to manually or automatically upgrade your world tier level as you go. The more you play, the more world tiers are going to be unlocked and the harder the game is going to get. When upgrading your world tier, the enemies are bumped up a few levels higher than you and your items currently are. That creates a challenging but enjoyable scaling system every time you rank up your world tier. Side quests can be completed to help catch up and get your loot up to rival that of the enemies, making the run smoother until you decide to bump up the world tier yet again when it's unlocked. There are a total of 15 tiers total, each one scaling a little higher in enemy level, but with this additional challenge, not only do the enemies get stronger, but your experience gains, loot find, and legendary drop rate increase too. The overall story mission is supposed to be between 20 and 30 hours of gameplay, and up to double or triple that if you complete all the side quests too. That's a base of around 50 to 60 hours of gameplay just for the story mode, and that is for each class and character you want to play on its own. So what comes after that? Expeditions. There are 14 uniquely made maps for you to push your skill and complete if you choose to challenge yourself. Completing these expeditions quickly will reward more loot and better loot. You can challenge them up. There are basically time trials built into expeditions where running them faster rewards better loot as you get more comfortable and develop strategies to beating them to progress. After you knock out all the expeditions, it unlocks a final activity, which is still kind of a mystery to us. It's called Eye of the Storm. There's a lot of speculation of what it'll be. Feel free to leave your own best guess down below in the comment section, but I think it's just going to be a very intricate or detailed expedition myself. We'll know here in a few days. Beyond that, you can go back and farm and replay missions and side quests from the story if you like, but that's all the content that is provided post-game. This brings me to the final part of the video, and the question to answer, is this game worth buying or pre-ordering? In my opinion, definitely. I do have my concerns with some of the mechanics at in-game, and I will talk about those in a minute. The game itself is honestly a lot of fun to play. It's not just something you do. It's something that I feel I won't even have a main character for. A lot of people like having a main in games, and each one of these kind of develop their own playstyle, and I will be playing the game to completion on all 4 types of classes in this game. At the end game, I will collect all the legendary armor pieces, experiment with mods, create builds, and just have fun mixing it up with all the combinations. Its customization is honestly one of the best I've seen in an RPG. If you factor in the expeditions and all of those qualities, I feel a person can easily squeeze a good 100 to 200 hours of gameplay out of a single class before completing all the chapters, farming for loot at in-game, and pushing better clears on expeditions by developing new strategies. I plan on doing that on 4 different characters, so I'm easily looking at a few months of hardcore grinding, and that is well worth the price of a standard video game to me personally. On to some of my concerns with the game though. I don't really have any major issues with the game itself, but more so some things I think that can turn this game into one that we get 500 hours out of, and that is relevant for a couple months, into a game that we could get 5,000 out of, and it could be good for years. The only issue I have with the game myself is a lack of in-game communication. I've been told for legal reasons they've chose not to put in voice comms into their game, leaving us to use Discord or another communication program to talk to people on, but this just may be a rumor. This game also lacks a text chat feature, leaving us only our emotes to express ourselves. They have, however, told the Ambassador team, which I am a part of, that they will be looking into a chat feature in the future if the game is received well. If you're looking for a place to discuss the game or have people to play with, and just looking for friends to grind and communicate with, my Discord is linked down in the description of this video and will be loaded up with Outriders channels, voice channels, and LFG ones for you guys to find people to play and communicate with if you need it. The game will end up a lot like Diablo does, in my opinion, where communication won't be necessarily essential to do well, but it'll help if you use it. This game was in fact launched as a finished product, with no priority on new features to be added. They have stated multiple times that if we want more features, new DLC, game modes, and seasons, and so forth, it'll come down to the interest in sales and obviously the reception of the game itself. The reception to the demo and the introduction to the Game Pass all but assures the DLC of some sort will come, in my opinion. I would be extremely surprised if it didn't. Let's talk about the endgame, though. This is, I guess, less of a complaint or an issue or a flaw, and more of an opportunity that I'm afraid the team will miss. As a person who sees the direction of this game, I would prefer it to adapt and aim to be truly like a Diablo successor with the shooter experience. So much of the foundation is already there, but I believe its loot system will hold it back from reaching that level of being playable for years to come. It wouldn't be a hard tweak that could ensure its survival and reach even more impressive levels than it currently is, but things like upgrading, especially without a very robust system and a bunch of different attributes and values to hunt after, can be very bad and honestly expedite the hunt. And honestly, if the beta is any sort of indicator, people love to hunt loot. You add that ceiling, you take away one of the purposes of playing the game. Look at the demo. Millions of downloads, tons of people with over 100 hours in it, despite it being a 3-hour experience, all due to farming a captain for legendaries. People love to chase loot. Deliver it to the gamers without a ceiling, and you've got a winner. I'll go into this deeper in the future after I've seen the full game and I can understand how the expedition scaling will work, so keep an eye on your sub box for that, Joel. That's my overall review and impression of the game. I personally love it, and haven't seen potential like this since the original Destiny. It's a great game, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys out there, Outriders.